Hello, my friends. How are you today? I am really enjoying season 18 of Project Runway. I know I'm a little bit behind times, but I love to see what life lessons and lessons I learned from Project Runway that you can bring right into your own sewing room as well. So today's episode is called Quilting and Life Lessons from Project Runway. So I'm only on season 18, but I'm kind of binge watching season 18. I really want to get up to the current season. What is it? Maybe 21? My husband and I used to watch Project Runway years ago, and we haven't watched for quite some time. So I'm just starting to get caught up. So if you watch season 18, I might be referring to some of the contestants from season 18 here today, because that's the one I'm currently watching. And I find it quite interesting how many different life lessons I have learned or I have been reinforced through that season. So the first thing I wanted to mention was about the lesson of having a vision. Having a vision for your project. That is such a life lesson in general, but especially a quilting lesson. And in Project Runway, it is absolutely essential to have a vision for what you are dreaming of making. Now, in Project Runway, they have such time constraints. They are given a project that they have to execute in one, possibly, if they're lucky, 2 days. Thank goodness we don't have those types of time constraints as quilters. But it's really important to have a vision and stick to that vision, whether it is a one-day project like on Project Runway, or you have months or even years to fulfill that vision for your quilt. Having a clear vision allows you to stay in your lane. It allows you to only execute or only add things to your quilt that make that vision a reality. So, for example, you could take a particular style. Maybe you are into primitive quilts and you have that primitive style. So, that vision of making a primitive quilt opens up a whole world of possibilities, but not the whole world, right? You have to kind of narrow it down and see what fits into that vision. So, you're not going to put in K-facet prints if you're doing a primitive quilt. So it helps you to focus and narrow down all of the choices in the whole wide world to what you're going to put in this particular project. Having the vision for that particular project doesn't mean you can't explore K-facet prints or batik prints, batik fabrics in another project. But for this particular project, we need a vision, and everything that we do has to point in the direction of that vision so that I was going to say the reader, but the person who's viewing your quilt in the end sees the vision you were going for, because everything that you added supports that vision. So if you have a vision, first of all, it's maybe a style, but maybe it's just a feeling you want to convey. You can dream up any type of vision you are dreaming about. So you might envision this absolutely stunning quilt, but unless you have a plan, unless you have the right types of fabrics, the right types of shapes, the right types of designs, your final quilt won't match your vision. Okay, so vision is absolutely critical when you are making any project, whether it's for Project Runway or it's for your quilts. Now, another life lesson that I think everybody on Project Runway learns is adaptability. Now, I know that this is critically important for quilters as well. Life gets in the way. Life makes challenges. Things go wrong. We have to stay flexible when our vision isn't quite coming together. When things aren't quite right in your quilt, you have to be adaptable and maybe even creative to fix those issues. So in quilting, what happens? Well, you run out of fabric, right? Or a block is, excuse me, a block isn't quite working. The pieces don't fit just right, or they don't measure up. The measurement is not what you expected it to be. So how can you adapt to make it work? How can you adapt to stay within your vision, but change your plan, change your fabrics, add in something new, change your design so that you can still complete the quilt within your vision, within what you had intended to do. And sometimes, doesn't that just make it even better? Doesn't that give you an opportunity to try something different, try something new, and solve a problem with maybe even a more creative end result than you had initially envisioned, right? The next life lesson that I really want to point out from season 18 of Project Runway: criticism is a gift. When you have the opportunity for Christian Siriano to look at your designs and to give you his feedback on what he thinks is working and what's not working for you, you got to listen. So many times on the past, I've watched about 8 episodes of season 18. So many times people are so ingrained in their vision, or they are just so set in their ways that they don't want to listen to Christians' advice. And sometimes that sets them in a tailspin, doing the wrong thing and not changing a design that really doesn't have much going for it. Or they take that criticism and they spin out because of it, right? They totally fall apart because they didn't receive a positive critique from Christian or from any of the other mentors that are out there. So I want to say that criticism is a gift. When you get feedback, you have an opportunity for growth. And that is so true in our quilts as well. We're not talking about criticism as in people are putting down your work. You're going to stay away from those people like the plague. You just don't want those people in your life. But having a mentor, having somebody that can critique your work, like an art critique, that can be so valuable. You can find so much inspiration in the way somebody else sees your work. Maybe because you're so close to your work, you're seeing it so differently than the people on the outside might see your work. So if you are open to criticism, if you are open to a critique, then you can absolutely get steered in a slightly different direction and really can elevate your work. So having a crit group, having a critique group that you go to can be so valuable. And that's why in our Ahead of the Curve community, we have our design club. In our design club, we can critique each other's work. We can have some influence. We can make suggestions. We can gently mold and guide somebody to elevate the level of their work. And that is a whole group effort. It's not me being the critic of your work. It is the collective group seeing your work maybe from a different perspective than from what you're seeing it yourself. Good morning, Mary. How are you today? So that is definitely a life lesson as well as a quilting lesson. Criticism can be a gift as long as it is constructive. And we also want to remember that criticism is hard to accept sometimes. So when we are in the role of the critic, or we're in a critique group, we have to be very sensitive to other people's feelings and to make sure that we are adding something, that we are adding some positivity to that critique and not just tearing somebody's work down. Now, I know we're all quilters and we don't do that. We don't tear each other's work down. We're always constantly building each other up. But sometimes just being overly positive, that doesn't help at all, does it? Because it doesn't help somebody to grow. So there's a fine balance between giving a critique and criticizing. So I want to point that out because it's so, so important. And our crit group in Ahead of the Curve, spot on. Everybody is being so positive when they're helping each other out with their quilts. Now, having said that, I'd love to see dozens more people in our crit group, in our Ahead of the Curve design club, where we give the opportunity, or we have the opportunity, to ask for a critique, ask for coaching, ask for mentoring, and make our work even better. So that brings me to the next life lesson from Project Runway. Consistency beats flashiness. When you are consistent in your work, it goes such a long way, rather than trying to really make an impression. Just one time, I'm going to throw everything that I have. I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at it because I really want to make an impression. I want to be flashy with my work. Consistency is so critical. Showing up week after week and delivering your best, doing your best week after week is so much more important than throwing everything you have at one project. So consistency is key. One block doesn't make a quilt, right? We have to be consistently building piece after piece after piece and keeping our quality level high throughout each piece, giving that consistent stitching, that consistent attention to detail. That's what's going to make your quilting masterpiece, not just a flash in the pan, doing something once and thinking that, oh yeah, I've got this, I've done applique, I'm an expert at it. Now I'm just going to move on and do something else. Consistency, adding a little bit of applique to every project will keep your quality levels super high. It will keep that consistency, will keep your skill level at a very high level because you're doing a little bit every day and you are improving those skills every time that you put that energy and effort into it. So not one flash in the pan, but consistent effort every single day makes such a huge difference. This is another life lesson from Project Runway that totally applies to quilters. Collaboration teaches humility. Being a collaborator on a project is hard. Whenever they announce a team challenge on Project Runway, oh my gosh, everybody kind of freaks out, don't they? Because working in a team, it's hard. You can't just rely on yourself for the productivity and for the quality and for that consistency. You don't know how other people are going to come to the table. So it's really hard to give up control, isn't it, when you're in a group challenge or a team challenge? But in life, teamwork is absolutely essential. We need teamwork whenever we are trying to accomplish any type of a project, whether it's a work project or something's going on in your family. We need that team to surround us and support us and help us out. Now, bear with me here because team projects are not normally a thing in quilting. But have you ever tried to make a raffle quilt for your guild? That is a team effort and it's hard, right? When I've never volunteered in a long, long time. I did years ago. I haven't volunteered recently to do a team project for a raffle quilt for my guild because it's super hard. You give out the block pattern, you give out the suggested colors. People use inferior materials. People don't have seams that measure up. It can be an absolute disaster, can it? However, there is one team challenge that I am involved with right now, and it's making the marathon quilt for the Boston Marathon. That is an absolutely fantastic project, and there are hundreds of collaborators on this project. So how is it going to come out? No one knows, right? It is absolutely a conglomeration of every different perspective, every different style, every different person's vision for what this quilt is going to be. But it's super fun to collaborate with other quilters and to bring what you do best to the table. And then the other quilters can bring what they do best to the table. So collaboration is super hard. Doing a team challenge can be no fun at all. Or if you're open to it and you try to use the best qualities that each person brings to the table, it can be a really fun experience, just like my Marathon Guild Challenge. The next life lesson from Project Runway: confidence. Oh my gosh, confidence goes such a long way. If you have a designer on Project Runway that can talk confidently about their design, even if it looked like a total flop initially, if they can talk confidently about their design and get behind it and go out there with a smile on their face, boy, can that way go a long way to sway those judges. Now, in life, confidence is so very important. You have to be able to trust yourself in order to handle so many different life's challenges. And that's true in our quilting too. We have to trust ourselves to be able to try something new and have the confidence to know that you can do it. Have the confidence to know that even if it's a complicated pattern or a brand new technique that you've never done before, you have the confidence and the self-belief that you can pull it off. And that goes a long way. When you are a quilter, you have to trust your instincts, trust your color vision, trust your vision for the entire project, and come into it with confidence that you know it's going to go right. And it's amazing how far that will bring you in life and in your quilting. Now, the next life lesson that I think this particular season of Project Runway has really exemplified is that your story matters. Now, it's really funny. Sergio on season 18 keeps making up these stories to go with his vision for his garment. He says he's a political designer, and he always puts a political statement into his designs. It's really kind of fun to watch the other designers just roll their eyes and laugh, because sometimes the design comes first and he makes up a story. He makes up a lesson to learn from that design. So funny to see these designers be so self-important and so self-confident, but a little misguided sometimes. I know that personal stories matter, and his stories really do come from a very heartfelt place. He's absolutely has his heart in the right place. It's his arrogance that I can't handle sometimes. But everybody's perspective is unique, and everybody's perspective is different, and everybody's story matters. So how in the heck does this relate to quilting? Well, I think that your story truly does matter. And when you put your story into your quilts, they can become a real inspiration for you. You can infuse your personality into your quilts. And those quilts become more than just quilts. They become a part of you or an expression of you. Now, that just might be your color story, or maybe it's your design, Or maybe you're really going into the artistic world of quilting, but you can bring your story into your quilts to make them truly unique and truly beautiful. Now, there's something to be said for picking up a quilt and making a quilt just the way it was made to look by the designer. But it goes to a whole new level if you put your own personal touches into that quilt. It's so much more meaningful for you and for the people seeing your quilt. So I'm going to challenge you to put your personality, to put your story into your quilts. Now, the last life lesson that I love from Project Runway, and we don't have Tim Gunn on this season of Project Runway. I have heard that he has come back for the latest season, and I'm so excited to see that. And that's why I'm binge watching Project Runway and getting back into it so that I can watch him come back. I haven't wanted to do that because I was so far behind. But I just love Tim's signature line that he always says, it's a make it work moment, right? This is a make it work moment. And he always leaves the designers as he's leaving the room saying, make it work. Well, that is so true in our quilts. Time is not always a luxury that we have. In Project Runway, they have sometimes 12 hours, sometimes 24 hours. I'm sorry, like 2 full days, right? So 12 hours one day, 12 hours the next day, in order to make these show-worthy garments. Well, we don't necessarily have time restrictions like that. However, make it work does not just mean get it done, right? When Tim says this is a make it work moment, he's saying this is a design opportunity. If you are struggling, if you have made mistakes, you got to make it work. You have no choice. You've got to put something out on that runway. And a lot of us have that same problem when we are frustrated. We are ready to give up on a particular project because it's just not working, right? Do you have a quilt that's just not working? Well, there are absolutely make it work moments in quilting. If you have the other day on Project Runway, one of the designers was finishing a garment. They were finishing a skirt and they cut right through it with their scissors. That was a make it work moment. Have you ever done that with your quilts? Have you ever been putting in the final stitches and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's a stain on the quilt. So I'm going to wash it. Oh my goodness. When I washed the fabric, it all bled. That is a make it work moment. We have to find a solution. We've got to find a creative solution, and we've got to salvage all of that work that we did in order to come up with, in the end, a beautiful design. So maybe over that bleeding fabric, you applique a bird, you applique a flutter of butterflies, so that you are camouflaging a particular problem, but you're taking that opportunity to make your quilt even better. So when you have a make it work moment, I want you to think about Tim Gunn. I want you to think about, how can I make this work? And if you fix the problem creatively, your quilt will not only shine, it will be the star of the show. So I'm wondering, which life lesson really speaks to you? Was there one life lesson from Project Runway that you think about when you are making your quilts? For me, it's the make it work moment. Also, that you have to have a vision and you have to stick to that vision to make your quilt work. I would love to know what you take away from Project Runway. First of all, do you watch it? Is that something that you have really enjoyed like I do? And if you haven't watched Project Runway yet, maybe you want to give it a try. It really exemplifies the abilities of designers to come up with innovative and creative designs to really impress the judges, to create something that's very wearable or editorial, or is going to look fabulous in on the runway, or maybe it's completely off the wall, futuristic, and has to satisfy the judges and their challenge, maybe an unconventional challenge, doing something out of totally unconventional materials. So, whatever the vision is, finding your own voice to create that vision is so, so important. And that comes into quilters when we do like a guild challenge and we need to come up with our own vision, our own creative use of materials. Hey, you know what? I didn't even think that that certainly ties into my challenge, the challenge that I've given my listeners and my members of Ahead of the Curve and our Sue Pellin Designs community is to come up with a design using only shapes that you can cut with the Leaves Galore, Hearts and More, and Rings and Things tools, and come up with your own applique design. And I did give our members a restriction of using certain fabrics in that design. Now, the design challenge, the 2025 design challenge, is currently open. We're open through the end of December. And there's going to be some great prizes and some cash prizes, as well as gifts from our sponsors. So if you love Project Runway, if you want to take on a design challenge, give yourself 12 hours. Give yourself 2 days to execute that applique design challenge, and you'll be amazed when you set that timer and you give yourself only a certain amount of time to produce a result. You'll be amazed at what you can come up with, just like the designers do on Project Runway. So I hope that you're going to keep on creating, keep on stitching, keep on learning, and your quilts are going to shine. So that's it from me today. Life lessons from Project Runway, quilting lessons from Project Runway. I hope that you will like this channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so you'll know when I go live next. And next week, I will pick an entirely different topic for our Sewing and Slippers with Sue. Now, just one little note. In my newsletter, I had said that my topic might be turning your hobby into a business. Well, I decided to put that one off. I'm not quite ready to talk about turning your hobby into a business, but stay tuned because that will be a future topic on Sewing and Slippers with Sue. So have a wonderful day, everybody. I hope that you will make beautiful applique quilts. And if I can help in any way, please leave a comment, reach out to me, and I would love to help you make your first or your next applique quilt. Bye, everyone.